All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you all had a good lunch. You've been drinking your water. I have mine right here. So please stay hydrated or do what you need to do during this workshop. So my name is Georgia Peary. I'm the club's leadership advisor within the Center for Leadership and Service. Welcome to the first Thunderbird Thursday of the 2020-2021 academic year. The leadership topic we are exploring today is, what is your leadership style? And so before we begin, we would really appreciate it if you checked in with using our link. Someone's going to post it in the chat magically. It's going to appear in the chat. But we would really appreciate if you checked in for this event. I also wanted to share some tips to enhance today's program experience. We ask that you keep yourselves muted just to limit the background noise interruptions. We will have time for conversation, and so obviously that's when you can unmute yourself and share to the large group. But if our presenters are presenting, we'd appreciate if you keep yourselves muted. And as we acknowledge that this Thunder Week looks and feels a lot different, we still want to be able to connect with you and build community. So we ask that you turn your cameras on if you're able to do so. This program is being recorded and will be available on the CLS YouTube page in a few days. If you have questions for us during the presentation, please use the chat feature. We will be having a Q&A portion near the end. So if we don't immediately answer your question in the chat, know that we have seen it and we are going to answer it later. Please also feel free to use the chat feature to connect with each other and other participants in the event. And as we go, so hello, my name is Georgia Peary. I am on the left of your screen in that Bitmoji. I use she, her pronouns. And like I said, I'm the club's program leadership advisor. I have the pleasure of working with the amazing rest of these folks on LPT, also known as the leadership programming team. And I'm going to let them all introduce themselves.
I assume we're going from left to right. Sorry, my unmute button wasn't going. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here today. My name is Amy Bergstrom. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Programming and Marketing Leadership Advisor in the Center for Leadership and Service.
Good afternoon, Highline students and community. My name is Edwina Fui. I use she, her pronouns, and I work as the Intercultural Center Leadership Advisor in the Center for Cultural and Inclusive Excellence.
Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see you all here. My name is Geomar Panillo. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I am the Mentorship Program's Leadership Advisor at the Center for Cultural and Inclusive Excellence.
Okay. By participating in this workshop this afternoon, these are the things that we are hoping you will take away from this experience. So the first is to gain a better understanding of your personality and leadership type. We will have some opportunities for you to just explore those and think a little bit about who you are and how that shows up in you as a leader. And with that, understand that there's not just one personality of a leader. So as we're exploring different types, realizing that there's a beautiful plethora of different styles of leadership and personalities, and that we're going to see the beauty and value in those different leadership styles. So not just appreciating your own style, but appreciating the value of the styles of the people around you.
All right, so maybe this is your first time attending a Thunderbird Thursday. Well, actually, technically it's everyone's first time attending since it is our first one, but maybe this is your first time learning about the Connect program. As we have a description here, Connect program really is about providing more leadership opportunities for students to engage in really amazing workshops. This could be anything from conversations. Our LPT team has some plans throughout this year. So every first Thursday of the month, if you've been at Highline for a while, we are definitely continuing on the legacy similar to First Fridays. But now it's Thunderbird Thursdays. And so this is really an opportunity for you to engage, get to connect with peers across campus. Of course, this quarter it's going to be virtually. And so what we hope is that, that as you learn more about not just your leadership style, but learning more about important topics that can connect to your identities, that you will also earn a leadership certificate by the end. And so if we go to the next slide, a way for you to earn that leadership certificate. And so in the link, if one of my amazing LPT folks can copy and paste the link to the form. So let's say, for example, today, since all of you are going to participate in the leadership topic, or what is your leadership style, by the end of the program, you'll fill out this Google form. And so the link is being copied and pasted into the chat right now. So if you attend 5 leadership workshops or 5 Thunderbird Thursdays, you will be eligible to receive that leadership certificate. This is just a great opportunity, like if you wanted to include it, for example, in the future for like your resume, and just showing that, you were connected with folks on campus, and really taking, things that you felt were valuable into your next steps, even after Highland. I feel like this is a wonderful opportunity for all of you. And to be honest, many of you are probably already super involved on campus. So let's say, for example, you are not able to make all of our Thunderbird Thursdays. If there's something particular that another campus department is offering, connect with any of our leadership advisors, and we can let you know if it's good to go to be added on to your Connect program Google form. All right, so LPT would like you all to participate in a really fun quiz. This is just for us, just to get to know you. If any of you like BuzzFeed, you know that they always offer so many different random quizzes. And so in the chat, I'm going to copy and paste a link to this first quiz. It should literally take maybe 1 to 2 minutes. So let's find out, what kind of juice are you? And let me say that when I took this quiz, I had an idea of what kind of juice I was based on my favorite, but apparently I'm a different type of juice. So I want all of you to take a moment and go to this link that is in the chat, take the quiz, and then share what are the results, and post them in the post your results in the chat feature as well. And also, maybe if you feel BuzzFeed is accurate or not. All right, Daniela shared cranberry juice.
Rowena, what button do I press?
Hi, Ying Yu. Here, the link to the quiz, I just copied and pasted it. If you just click on that link, it should take you to a website, and then you just fill out the responses there. Yeah, feel free to share, if you want to share like some of the descriptions that they share about, like, what does it mean to be, cranberry juice or mango juice or tomato juice, apple juice. Samantha, I thought I was going to get like something like apple juice, or maybe like I was hoping for guava juice, to be honest, but I personally have orange juice. So Lily, you and I are maybe the same. Okay. Amy wrote in the description, you are a bit standoffish to strangers, but those closest to you know how great you really are. You're sweet, but you aren't afraid to get a little sour. Mango juice, tomato juice. Tiffin says, yeah, it's correct. I don't care what others think. Ying, you have grape juice? I think that's the first time I've seen that one.
I like to eat grape juice.
Oh, you like grape juice. What were your results?
Let me look. Hold on.
You have apple juice. Okay.
I actually choose it. I don't know my results. Oh, wait, sorry.
It's okay. Take your time, Ying. If you just go through some of the questions, you just select like which one you'd most identify with, and then they'll give you a result at the end. You have apple juice, but someone knows mango juice, cranberry juice. Gio wants to be watermelon juice. Gio, it's okay. You and I both. I want to be guava juice, but I can't. Oh, Doris, we are the same. Okay, Domar. Orange juice. Sweet, fun, a person who makes friends everywhere they go. They're not afraid to get out of their comfort zone and puts a smile on folks' face. Anita, you have the same as Amy. I see a couple of cranberry juice folks in here. Aisha says, Amy, I love your description. We could all embrace our sour. Very true. Yeah. All right. Well, that was just a fun little, break into, this space because, there might be folks in here who may not know each other, but now that we are getting a feel for what types of juice, what kind of personalities are in the space, trust me, BuzzFeed has a lot. So I encourage you all to check it out. It's really funny, like sometimes how accurate these, can be or how you identify. And sometimes I'm like, no, I don't feel that way at all. So definitely don't take BuzzFeed too serious. But it is a fun way to just kind of read about just random things like what Gio was mentioning, his compatibility with Justin B. I don't know, but anyways, I'm gonna pass on the mic. I believe next to GP.
Yes. All right.
I'll be back, okay?
Okay, Ying, we'll see you soon.
Okay.
So Edwina's little icebreaker wasn't just to maybe loosen you up a little bit. It was also to kind of give you a hint as to kind of what we would be talking about and how we want to guide you to maybe find your leadership style or just know more about your leadership style that you have. And so it's important to remember that when we all got together as LPT to talk about this, in the words of Amy Bergstrom, these like leadership style or personality quizzes are descriptive and not prescriptive. And so I'm going to go over just 3 different ones, and you're going to actually go through one later. You're actually going to take a quiz later to give you more in-depth insight into your personality or leadership style. But we want you to have that mindset of this doesn't prescribe you and what type of human you are or what type of leader you are. Just like Edwina said, you might take a BuzzFeed quiz and be like, no, I don't agree with that description. I don't agree with that result. I think one time it told me my soulmate was going to be named Chad. So no, I don't believe in that either. And so that's kind of the kind of critical lens that you could bring to these results that you get. And so LPT, we had like a long list of like, okay, what tests we want to kind of go over with these young student leaders. And we had a list from like, I think I had it somewhere. It was like True Colors was also on there. We had Strengths Finder. But we thought these 3 were kind of a good picture of like the spectrum of leadership or personality quizzes. And so first we have the 16 personality quizzes. Let me get my notes here because I want it to be in depth about this. So 16 Personalities was actually developed by a psychologist, and it pulls from 2 different psychological theories. Essentially, these psychologists wanted to know how our actions and how our actions play out in our environments are also influenced by our environment and our surroundings, our experiences, and also our individual goals. So it's partly developed by the same psychologist who developed the Myers-Briggs test. So if you've heard of Myers-Briggs, it's pretty much essentially the same thing. And it deals with the main focus being trait-based and not type-based. So it's not what type of leader you are, what type of person you are, what type of personality you have. It's more about how the traits that you exhibit and you show most often communicate maybe what type of personality you have. So within the 16 personalities, there are 4 different groups of personalities. So there are the analysts, the diplomats, the sentinels, and the explorers. And then they all have 4 subgroups in each, making it 16 personalities. And you get like a acronym of like 4 or maybe 5 letters, and it gives you like a big long description of what it means after you take the quiz. Next, we have our love language quiz. And so really the essential thing it's asking is, how do you give and receive love? And you would be asking like, why are we talking about love when we're talking about leadership? Well, so you can lead with love. I want to start there. But also it's really essentially that if we have stronger relationships, so think about your relationships with your work family, your friendships, in that group project that you have in that course. When we know and understand ourselves and others best, that's when we work together the best. So while this quiz was originally for kind of determining and having a more healthy romantic relationship, knowing how you give and receive love or affection is a great tool for learning who you are as a leader. I think this quiz especially is helpful in knowing how to work and harmonize within a team. So say you are like the designated maybe leader of that group project or your sports team that you're on. It's really good to know how your teammates like to be appreciated. So I know that Amy's love language, spoiler alert, is quality time. So when I'm thinking of like, oh, I really want to show Amy that I really appreciate her today, she planned an amazing Thunder Week. She was there for all of us in all of our events, and she really like pulled it off. So what I'm going to do, well, unfortunately we're socially distanced. Maybe I'm going to set up like a one-on-one with Amy, and we're going to just chat, and maybe not chat about work, but we're just going to chat about life. And that will show Amy that I really care about her. And on the flip side of that, say you aren't the leader and maybe you really want to make sure your supervisor knows how you're appreciated. So I let my supervisor know that I really like quality time. So he doesn't need to give me like gifts because that's just not my love language. But if I know his love language, then I can show I appreciate my supervisor by giving him a gift, maybe. And lastly, we have the most, I would say, complex and subtle is the Enneagram. And so you may have been hearing about the Enneagram. I feel like it's maybe growing in popularity. I have some friends who have started a podcast about the Enneagram because they are so into it, and that's all they talk about. But it says there are 9 basic personality types. And the Enneagram is a personality typing system that shows how a person can view and interpret the world in one of 9 ways based on what basic personality type you have. So unlike the 16 personalities, which is based on your traits, this is not based on your traits. So the Enneagram focuses on what motivates you. And this can be either your core desires or your core fears. So you'll see in the next slide, you're going to see what LPT, what our results are of all these quizzes. And if maybe some of us have chosen the Enneagram to share a little bit more, we'll share maybe what our core desires are, what our core motivations are. And it's important to know, you can see this little diagram here, you know, the 1 through 9, and we'll maybe share more about that. And we're going to post the links to all of these in the chat. So you can take them later after this workshop, but it's good to know you're not just limited to one type when you're taking the Enneagram. There's an option to have a wing. And so say you're a type 8, that means you could also have a wing 7 or a wing 9. So you might have core motivations or desires that are reflective of 7s and 9s, but you're predominantly an 8. So that's like the cliff notes of these 3 main ones. I totally encourage you to go more in depth about them. I just barely skimmed the surface, but we're gonna kind of give you all a little snapshot of what LPT, what our results are in this next one. So I'm here on the left. My 16 personalities or Myers-Briggs is ESFPT, which apparently means turbulent entertainer, which is like very close, but slightly opposite of Edwina, you'll see later when she explains hers. I don't quite identify much with my results with the Myers-Briggs, so I didn't read too much into it. I didn't feel like it was very accurate, or I need to spend more time really delving into that. My love language is quality time. So if you want to show you appreciate me, let's hang out over Zoom, obviously. And then my Enneagram is a type 3 wing 2, which is the achiever. And so my core desire is to be valued and to be successful. And my core fear is that I'm not being valuable. So I'm not like contributing to the team I'm on. And my wing is the wing 2, which is similar to some of my other teammates, but they will describe that more. So yeah.
Are we passing to talk about them?
Oh yeah, let's pass it. I'm gonna pass it to Amy. I'm gonna go left to right.
Okay. I was like, not sure if that was what was happening next. So I just commented in the chat that I think I knew this, but I didn't realize that I am the only I in LPT on the 16 personalities. I am an INFJ, which is the advocate. It's the rarest personality type in 16 personalities, which makes me feel special in some bizarre kind of way. But it's one of those actually, one of the things that I have found really, thank you, Edwina. One of the things that I found really interesting in reading that description is it talks about particularly the INFJ. The I stands for introvert, if you haven't explored that personality type yet, but I'm a very personable person. And it actually talks about that in that how sometimes INFJs get mistaken for extroverts because of our ability to interact with people in that way, even though the way our energy is introverted. So I do really like the INFJ. I really do like the 16 personalities. I've taken it many times and I always get INFJ. So I feel very like secure in that response. As Georgia mentioned earlier, I loved that example you shared, by the way. Quality time is also my number one love language, the way that I am feel appreciated. And I think for me, it's a lot about being chosen. So like feeling like you have chosen to spend time with me is like where that appreciation comes in, which also fits really well with my Enneagram. I'm probably the biggest Enneagram fan on our team here. Also, I'm a type 6. I didn't put this in the slide, but I'm a type 6 with the wing 5. And type 6 is called the loyalist. So we are known for being super loyal to the people in our lives. And so I think that kind of ties in with like how I feel loved when other people are loyal to me. And type 6's core fear is fear itself. And our core desire is to feel secure. So it's really about, I'll actually talk about this a little bit and towards the end, but we are constantly looking out for potential dangers. But when we feel secure, we are like super committed and loyal to whatever it is that we feel secure in. So I love all of those things. So I feel very identified with all of those. So,
yeah. My results, so as Georgia mentioned, like very close as far as the 16 personalities results. I am an ESFP, also known as an assertive entertainer. I laugh every time I read the description because I feel like it accurately describes me, and I've shared this with some students. But just a short description of entertainers is that regardless of what position entertainers find themselves in, they share a desire to make the environment as friendly and enjoyable as possible. And so and this is also connected to my Enneagram results about type 2, like really valuing relationships and building connections. And so that's just the type of person I am. I feel like, definitely influenced from my undergrad experience and working with different communities. Just really thinking about how important connection is. And so I just feel like that it accurately describes me. And Amy sharing that she's, being the only I in the group, like I was like, oh wow, that's thinking about that. I'm like, okay, now we need to really reevaluate how we continue to work with each other and not taking too much from Amy. But anyways, this is me just thinking live. My love language is quality time and words of affirmation. And I'm really grateful because in our unit, we got to take this test together during one of our summer retreats. And so I always thought like words of affirmation were always going to be like my number one, but thinking more about quality time, similar to Amy and Georgia, like, just being able to share space with different folks in my life, I feel like it helps to give me energy. Even during this virtual time, I know sometimes it can be exhausting being online, but trying to just switch your format. So sometimes I use FaceTime, or in an earlier program, Amy brought up Marco Polo, like different apps to really stay connected to folks. I feel it helps me. But then also sharing that in how I work with my team and in this space. I'm going to be honest, I still don't know what it means to be type 2 wing 3. I just know that Fun fact is that Gio and I have the exact same results. And if you've ever connected or if you know Gio and I's personality, they call us the twins in the office as a joke. So when we found out that we had the exact same results, we're like, okay, that makes sense. But still learning what it means, like using Enneagram in the workspace. Um, and I think it's listed as the host or the helper, one of those. Amy and Georgia can probably correct me on that. But yeah, those are my results.
Right. So my result is ESFJ, the console. When I took this way back then in college, I was actually an introvert, and then I got involved with student life and student affairs. That's when it started becoming extrovert. So now I'm like on the far end of the spectrum. Like I'm all the way to the end of extrovert. But yeah, so uh, the console are supposedly the popular, if you're in high school, you were the cheerleaders. I definitely was not a cheerleader in high school because I was not active. I was introvert. And um, for the lack of better word, they like to be around people. So I have to like put a list here too. So extrovert, and then the S is observant. So I like to see what's in front of me. I'm very observant of like what's happening about everyone and are like surrounding me, and just being in the present and not being mindful of like the future. The next one is feeling. I use my heart to like decision making. Um, I'm not logical. I was like, is this expensive or can I afford this? Nope. It's like I really go with, oh, this makes me feel happy. I'm gonna get this. Or like even when I'm working with my team, I'm like, this feels right. So we're gonna do it. Like it might be wrong, but like in my heart, like that's how I feel. So we just go with it. And lastly is judging. I'm a hot mess. I'm just gonna put it out there. I'm a hot mess, but when it comes to checklists, I have a nice checklist. When we're in the office, I have a checklist on my whiteboard. Over here in front of me, I have a checklist too. So I like to stay organized as much as possible. So that's my ESFJ. Also, Taylor Swift, J Lo, who else? Steve Harvey. They're all ESFJ. Also, Sansa Stark. If you watch Game of Thrones, I don't know how they got ESFJ for Sansa Stark, but apparently Sansa took the test too. So that's mine. And then my love language is actually touch, which makes sense because I love hugging. When I don't know if y'all see me in the office, if you've been around the center, oftentimes I would hug students or my friends. So I really appreciate it, and that's how I feel loved when people are giving me hugs or there's like the holding hands thing, like physical touch. And then for my Enneagram, I'm still trying to really put my head around that. Like what Edwina said, we're the same, but I'm not too sure about it too. Like I still need to read it and like make use of it, honestly. But one thing that I can add though is we have a word of appreciation at workplace. That one is word of affirmation. So when I'm working, I really like hearing from my team that, oh, you're doing a great job. Just so I know that like my works are being appreciated, which we did that last summer, and we got to know each other, like how we feel valued in workspaces, which I really appreciate. So those are my personality types.
So now I think we kind of wanted to hear from you. And so we saw in the chat, some of you are pretty familiar with these quizzes that we were talking about in these tests. And this is just a large group discussion. So if you want to, feel free to unmute yourself. But the question is, what personality and leadership tests have you taken? What do you like about those tests? And what have you learned from yourself from this test?
Well, I can start. My name is Bontu, and I represent Emoja as a student ambassador. Previously, I don't know the name for the test, but I've taken like a color test. And like, I remember I think it was like 2 years ago, but I remember that I was like a blue color. And what I like about it is like it's cool to like I guess to see a bunch of your traits that you have. I don't think we always well, I don't always like think of the traits that I do have, but it's cool to like see it like in like a detailed place. And it's cool to see that other people have like the same traits that you do.
Well, I take it to like the like north, east, or west, south test. Like it shows you like what type like what you are like if you like if north on on yeah. If you are like actions visionary uh an- analytic empathy. Hmm. What do I like? I do like about when it shows you what type type of personality, what type of personality are you are or leadership we are. I learned from myself is I'm a visionary vision learner.
Thanks, Joseph. I think I've also taken that quiz and I also got visionary. So, and I'm also a visual learner as well. So I see you, Joseph. Anyone else want to share out a test that they've really liked and um, or maybe that they haven't really liked and the results that they disagreed with as well?
I did share this in the chat. I take the 16 personalities test the most, and I learned that my style definitely changes. Like when I first started college, I was pretty much introverted, but I feel like as I've gone along more, I've become more and more extroverted and kind of seeing how my leadership style shifts throughout that.
So, excuse me. Would for instance, the like official Hogwarts house test count because it kind of a little bit has to do with personality? Because when you were talking about maybe a test that you did not like, I took it, and all of my life before this official quiz, I had thought that I was Ravenclaw because I like, I like to be inquisitive. I like to learn. I like books and all that other kind of stuff. I like blue. But when I took the official quiz, I got Slytherin, and I got really introspective because I didn't agree at all with it, but um, like when you get the official answer, like they also include articles afterwards, and the number one article was why it's not bad to be a Slytherin, because it also shows that you are ambitious, which is not a bad thing, but there are, you know, different negative connotations that they have around it that need to be cleared almost as well. So it kind of allowed me to look back in and be introspective at the same time about, what my goals are and, what I value when it comes to being able to empower others per se. But yes.
Thanks for sharing, Lily. And don't quote me on this, but I believe I read recently that the Hogwarts houses, when the author of Harry Potter, and we know we can have a critical lens with that particular human, but She used, I believe it was Myers-Briggs to kind of separate into the houses. But Lily, I really appreciate how you brought up that like we might have like a negative connotation when we hear like a certain type of personality, or maybe a Hogwarts house that you're in because of maybe how the media or mainstream media has presented it. I want to bring up that, Geo asked, does co-star and like horoscopes count? And I'm a Gemini, and Geminis kind of sometimes get a bad rap for like being two-faced or things like that. And I think what really happens is when you delve into like maybe what your results are of that test, you can really think of like how it's individualized for yourself. And so thanks. So I just want to say thanks for bringing that up, Lily. Anyone else want to share out?
One shout, Georgia. Like I never, I don't know if I have took leadership tests before. Like I took like tests for like a placement test, maybe from at least for English test, but that's what I take. But when I was in high school, I took some tests that were required for how to graduate high school. But what I learned from it just goes slow. Like in junior year, our chief self, I was like, I took a test, but because Ms. Pochash, Mr. Schultz, and I were working with each other, they want to go slow, and I didn't want to go too fast. But when I took the English placement test, when I came to Highline, I didn't want to rush because I just had to go slow. I took the placement test. That's what I take this. But like, I take a typing test, see how many words I type per minute. It just, I wouldn't, so it would know that I would be how many words per minute I type.
So Ying, you mentioned you haven't taken a leadership test maybe yet.
No, I never.
And so thanks for bringing that up, because you led us right into the next part of this workshop. So I'm going to hand it over to Gio.
Yeah. So throughout the presentation, we've been talking about like the benefits of or the strengths of the personality test, right? So this is kind of like a conclusion to like summarize everything. So first, like what's nice about this personality test is that you get to know yourself. Yes, you don't have to take it like all the way to the core of it, but it's a nice guide, right? Like I use it definitely. Talks about like your likes and dislikes, and it makes sense. And it also talks about like how do you approach things. So for example, for myself, one thing is touch as my love language. And one time I went to a drive. I don't know if this is all too personal, but you know what? This is a safe space, and I'm being real. I went to a long drive with someone I was dating, and after the long drive, he told me, Gio, I've never been on a long drive, or I've never held someone's hand for 13 hours straight. And it's like, he did not know that was my love language, right? Like, if I had known what his love language is, like, I would have known how to approach that long 13 hours drive. And this ties in with social interactions too. It helps you like how you interact with others. So it's good to know like what others' personalities are, what their love language are, maybe the way they want to be appreciated at work. It helps you connect with them. An example, let's see, I took a note. So yeah, it helps you build stronger relationship with others, especially the one you love. An example is maybe in your team, someone is an introvert. So if you're not going to put someone in your team to be out there talking to students, maybe in front of a large group, maybe someone else you can delegate that kind of work. So that's how you can help that, or go about the social interaction, is like knowing your personality type, their personality type as well. Another thing is school and career. So when I was reading my ESFJ or my personality type, it says that ESFJ are very caring. They like to be around people. They want to help people. So I had jobs before in the past that I was just in a cubicle and I was like printing stuff. I was making copy. That didn't make me happy. I wanted to talk to students. I wanted to talk to people. So I used that as a career. I was like, okay, I'm going to go into the higher education. I'm going to be working with students like one-on-one and So that's what I did. It's school too. So I took American Ethics Studies, like make sure that I'm just like around people. And all of the jobs that I've had has always been customer service. Weaknesses and strengths. So it just provides you of what can you make better, or what can you offer to your team or to those who are around you, and also like what do you need, what type of support do you need from them. I don't. So that is the benefits of the leadership test or the personality test. Is like knowing yourself and others, make that relationship better. Any questions, by the way? Questions, or I think we have time in questions at the end of the presentation. So right now, we would like for y'all to take this 60 personality test. If you haven't done so, I will put the link over there. But yeah, so it's just 16 personalities, personality test. Feel free to Google it, or I will post it in the chat once I find the link. Actually, LPT, I just can we ask them to take the different type of test? Is that okay? Since we have the links, you know, maybe they don't, maybe they've taken the personality test before, maybe they want to take the love language or the Enneagram.
Yeah, I'm curious about the Enneagram. I took it before and I remember reading the results and not really understanding. So maybe I just was taking a weird test, but maybe you have a better link for that?
Yeah. So these are the links. It's on the chat that LPT and some of the pro staff has taken in the past. So this is where we base off our conversations today.
Oh, it looks like that's the link I used before. I was a type 1 wing 2, which I don't know, it just seems kind of interesting, but I don't really fully understand how to read it.
Mm-hmm. I encourage you, Tessa, to set a one-on-one with Amy. Like, Amy, I'm sorry, I'm putting you on the spot, but I'm telling you, Amy is the queen of Enneagram, and she will tell you exactly what it is. And also, she might share like Instagram posts on Enneagrams.
Okay, sounds fun.
I am happy to be, I don't know, I'm developing my side business as an Enneagram coach. That is not true. What I was going to say about the Enneagram though is, and this is maybe some of these are definitely like quiz, like take a quiz and learn that. The thing that they do say about the Enneagram is it's helpful to start with a quiz to like see, but it's actually the best way is to read the different descriptions and see which one like resonates most closely with you. So it's helpful to like narrow it down because there are 9, right? But if you read one and you're like, I don't feel like I'm a 1, I will put another link in the chat. It's for a website that has comparisons. So like, for example, my highest, and Tessa, I feel like you and I, every test so far, we've been the same. My top 2 Enneagrams are 6 and 1. And there's a place where you can put in what's the difference between a 6 and a 1, and it like describes the like ways you might see a difference. So that's another great resource. I'll put it in the chat as well. But the Enneagram, I would say, is probably one you're not gonna come out of a test and feel real like, that's who I am. Yeah.
Yeah, and I did get like a few runner-ups to 1. So I had like 1 and then 4 and then 6. So it's weird. I guess just compare them and figure it out from there.
All right, so let's take a test on maybe 10 to 12 minutes to take the test, and GP will play us some chill music. One thing that I think we forgot to mention is that this 16 personality test is like, it's a spectrum, you know, it's not just like you're on this side or this side, you're kind of like, sometimes you might be in between introvert or extrovert or feelings and judgment kind of thing. So just, you know, if you're feeling like, oh, one day you're feeling extrovert, that's totally fine, because maybe you're just in the middle of that spectrum. All right, everyone. Let's finish your result. Oh my gosh, I just saw Doris like sunglasses. I was like, what is she wearing? The shade o'clock glasses. I love it. Um, oh, okay. Joseph didn't finish it. You are more than welcome to finish it. Later after the workshop or like during the workshop, but hopefully later. And then you can come back here on our next Thunderbird Thursday, and you can share that. Does anyone want to share what their results are? Maybe you took another test this time that's like not the personality test. And with that result, like what are you going to do with that result? Like how are you going to utilize that? Feel free to unmute yourself or the chat or use the chat. I'm just gonna read in the chat. Put my eyes there. Did anyone take like a new test? I know we've been talking about the Enneagram, which I'm not very familiar with. I know Tessa did again, right? Daniela took the Enneagram and they got type 4. So I honestly don't know what that means. And I encourage you to read the description of what type 4 is. Ooh, type 4 being 5 with 15. Ooh, it's a lot of numbers now. Amy, any thoughts on those numbers? I'm so sorry, Amy. I'm like, there's 15. I've never heard of such thing.
I don't know what the 15 is. 4-wing 5 is called the Bohemian. Basically, 4 is called the individualist and 5 is called the investigator. So you can dive more into that a little bit, but that would be the individualist with an investigator wing. Sorry, my cat.
Anyone else would like to share out, if not, bring this next time to our Thunderbird Thursday. Bring it to the spaces that you take part of. And now I'm just gonna pass the microphone to, I believe it's Amy.
Yes. And I typically would not let my cat sit on my lap during the middle of a workshop, but I feel like you all will appreciate having her here. And she was doing some running around crazy, like wildness. So I thought maybe she needed some company. She's here with us. So if you hear she's purring right now,
what's your cat's name?
This is the work from home life. Her name is Pippin.
Pippin, hello.
Yes, she says hi to everyone. Actually, she doesn't. She's very shy. So with this in mind, all of these things, it's really fun to do these activities, right? But like, why does it matter that we know your leadership style, our leadership styles? And this kind of goes with what Gio said earlier, but I had some additional takeaways that I wanted to add. If you want to go to the next slide. So these are really just my conclusions as to why it matters to know your leadership styles. GP. Thank you. So one is some language to talk about your experiences. Like we've been going through and you all have been sharing in the chat, all of LPT's been sharing. I think it's really helpful to have some words even just to put around the things you know about yourself. The example that I often tell people is before I ever heard of the Enneagram or learned things about that, I have just always been a person who looks for what could go wrong. And I remember specifically, I was hanging out with some friends and something had happened in a place that we were at. And like we were going to that place and I was just like, what would we do if that thing happened again? Right? Like it was just sort of me like, I don't know, that's the way my mind works. And I remember my friend saying, why would you even think that? Like, why would that be a thing that you think of? And I felt kind of guilty about it. Like, yeah, why do I have to be so pessimistic? Why do I have to be concerned about whether something's going to go wrong when we go to this place, right? But ever since I like learned about this concept of always like Enneagram 6 is always being like looking for the like safety and looking out for potential things that could go wrong, I'm able to see that this is I can recognize it in myself. And so sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'm just being pessimistic and thinking about what could go wrong. I also can see it as my superpower. I've said this before with some of our student leaders, right? Like I can pretty much go through any scenario and know like the potential things that could go wrong and then therefore be prepared for them. And so feeling like I'm able to recognize that in myself and talk about that now in a productive way, as opposed to being like, oh, I'm just like a downer. So that's one. And kind of related to that, this idea that you're not alone. You know, we are unique individuals, but there are certain like styles that we see in all these different types, right? And so, you know, sometimes there are 4 types if we're talking about the leadership compass or true colors. There's 16 types in 16 personalities. There's 9 types in the Enneagram. There's 5 different love languages, right? They're kind of ways of categorizing the world, which of course is limiting, but also I find comfort sometimes in knowing like other people experience those same things. So even in the chat, when someone said, oh, I'm that type too, right? It's not necessarily that we're identical humans, but it's like, somebody else gets it. Somebody else understands the thing that's going on in my brain right now. So I think that can be really helpful. And then kind of turning it, it's also helpful to know how to work with other people. So sort of like Georgia and Gio gave examples earlier, thinking about what am I missing that I need in a teammate, right? So if I'm really good at this thing, but I'm missing this thing, you know, how can my teammates, how can we work together to bring all of our strengths into the work that we're doing? And then also, how do I support my teammates knowing their strengths and styles, right? So if I know that, you know, my teammate is like, if I know Gio likes words of affirmation in his workplace love languages, then that can be a good reminder for me that I can like bring that to Gio and support him in that way. And then again, as we were saying earlier, recognizing the beauty in diverse leadership styles. I think both in recognizing the beauty in other people's styles, but also for me, especially like even as an introvert, I feel like introverts are not like stereotypically thought of as being leaders when you're talking about like person who wants to be up front, person who wants to be looked at, all of those kinds of things, and learning like the strengths that I have in my style and what those can be used for leadership, and that there's beauty in that, and I don't have to be a different version of me. So like I can work on being the best version of me rather than trying to be someone else and trying to say, oh, I'm going to fit someone else's mold, someone else's definition of leadership. Instead saying, okay, this is what I know about myself. This is who I am. How do I use those strengths to be a great leader in the community that I'm in? So those are some of the reasons I think it's valuable to know your leadership style. But what do you think? Does anybody else have other insights as to why it might be helpful or important to know your leadership style? Either out loud or in the chat. That was Pippin, if you heard that little squeak. Okay, well, apparently I just covered all of it. So I think that brings us to our final question and answer, right, Georgia? Or did I miss something? Yes, what questions do you have? I love Georgia's glasses down looking questions. Besides how to analyze the Enneagram, which I think would be a whole other workshop, as I said, does anybody have questions for any of us on the team? Questions about our styles, questions about finding your style?
You can find your style to wear you dress up every day at school.
Oh, we're just talking about our leadership style, seeing. So not your clothing style, but like
I misunderstood.
I will add though that my Enneagram said that 3 wing 2s, because they are one of my core desires or my core motivation is like outside affirmation, which I was surprised then that words of affirmation was not my love language. But 3 wing 2s tend to not over care about their appearance, but they tend to be stylish people. And so I'm like, all right. Yes.
Like my leadership style could be like interfering with other people, and then that could be one.
Yeah. Danielle, I see what you said in the chat, and I really, really vibe with that, because when I read the description of type 3, I'm gonna be vulnerable with you all. I felt really icky almost of like, oh, I'm dependent on what other people think about me. And that's what brings me like fulfillment. But once I read more into it, and it's funny because then I read it to, I think, like my best friend Katie. I was reading this. I was like, I'm reading this description. Can you read it? And she's like, oh, this is totally you. And then I was like, it is, because Katie gave me some outside affirmation. So I think that's also just indicative of I'm an external processor as well, and I like to bounce things off of people. So I will say I had kind of the same experience, Daniela. Um, Sometimes it's easy to read the words as negative, but realizing that, when I read it, it was like, that's what makes me me, and I can't really apologize for who I am, and I'm gonna own it.
Also, so Enneagram 7s are called the enthusiasts, and they are looking for like getting the most out of life. And people who talk about the Enneagram, I've heard that every type thinks that their type is the worst, except for Enneagram 7s who think their type is the best. So if anyone is an Enneagram 7, that's awesome. But it is one of those things where I think, like, not that I want to be negative, but I do feel like reading some of those things where if you feel like it hits a little close to home, is maybe like a good indication of like, oh, okay, that might be true for me. And again, not looking at it necessarily as negative, but like, how do you take that information and help it to either like become aware, like I was saying before with mine, of like, okay, it could be negative that I tend to be afraid, or I can see like, when I notice that in myself, what do I like do with that information?
Tessa, I also see what you said in the chat. So Tessa said, same, someone even analyzed mine once, their Enneagram, and made me feel kind of weird. And actually, Tessa, something I learned from Amy and my other friends that are super into the Enneagram, you actually shouldn't be typing other people. So no offense to that person who like analyzed you, but it's a really like individual experience. And I think it's probably rooted in like, you probably know yourself best. And so you're actually like not supposed to type other people, which is really hard to do, because you're like, oh, I think this person's maybe a type 5, but you don't know like what internally motivates them and what maybe are their internal desires or fears.
I'm like trying to not be that Enneagram girl, but I apparently am. One of the things they say too is Enneagram is not based on your actions or behaviors versus some of the other personality types. And it's based on your core motivations. And you can have the same behavior and it can be motivated by different things. So like a great example, I will just continue using 6 because that is what I connect with. The 2, which is the helper, is often helping other people because their core desire is to feel loved and needed. And 6s are also often helping people because we are afraid that something's going to go wrong. And so the behavior is very similar in both groups, but the reason for doing it and the motivation is actually very different. And so that's one of those reasons why they say not to type other people, is because you can see other people's behaviors and make assumptions, but it might not, you can't know like what their motivation inside is. That Enneagram girl. Apparently I've got branding now.
I'm gonna make a shirt. Any other questions? What other questions do people have about personality types, about leadership styles? Sorry, my Outlook notifications. Ignore that. Ignore that. This is protected time. Well, if people don't have questions, LPT is here to answer all of them. Maybe one of my LPTers can put all of our emails in the chat box. But you can also find our emails on the CLS and CCIE pages. Before we end today's program, I first just want to thank you all for attending today. This is the first ever Thunderbird Thursday by this team of LPT. And so we really just want to say thank you. And in saying thank you, we also want to know your feedback. And so in the chat box, one of my great teammates is going to post this link. And this is our ThunderWeek feedback link. Your feedback is critical in enhancing our programs. We only want to get better at serving you and meeting you all where you're at and giving you the programs that you want. So we'd greatly appreciate if you filled out that form. And a reminder that if you did not check in when you arrive, to also do that before you leave. Be sure to join us for our final Thunder Week events. It's kind of crazy that tomorrow is the last day. That's crazy to me. Happening tomorrow is our last Coffee With program hosted by Doris Martinez and Thomas Bowie, and it's Coffee With Community. So they will be chatting with representatives from Veteran Services, Achieve and Future Launch, women's programs, and the learning communities. We also want to make sure there's a lot going on tomorrow. We go big or go home. We don't like end with a fizzle. No. There's the community pantry drive-through, and that is happening tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 2 outside building 16 on campus. I'm going to call Gio in to maybe give a little bit more details about it right now. Go for it, Gio.
Yeah, so we invite you all to come to our community pantry drive-through from 10 a.m. to 2 o'clock, where you'll be getting, produce, typical things that you will get from our pantry, with the addition of the swag bag that is prepared by the center. So you'll get sanitizers, face masks. Oh, do we have models here? I don't have my face mask next to me. Edwina, your goggles, I cannot. But we have face masks and we have reusable metal straws, with a cleaning brush. What else in there? There is a calendar planner inside there too, and also the tote bag that you can use grocery shopping. So we're very eco-friendly there. Ooh, what is this? We can see you in person. You're not gonna see me in person, but Edwina is gonna be there. Dr. Mosby is going to be there. Mariela, Fuzi, and Rashad is gonna be there too. Oh, and Auntie Jerry from the library. So a lot of staff are gonna be there to handing this out to our students and to make that community. So it's open also for walk-ins or walkouts, a walkthrough. Whatever the term is. If you don't have a car, if you're taking public transportation, you are more than welcome to join. We just ask you to not to leave your car if you're driving. The walkthrough can only apply to people who are walking there or taking the public transportation. But yeah, so 10 o'clock to 2. Well, we're excited to see y'all.
Thanks, Gio. And yeah, they will be following social distance guidelines. So yes, you will get to see Edwina in person, but from 6 feet away. And if you are coming in your car, stay in your car. There's more information about and details about that event on our ThunderWeek webpage, which is cls.highline.edu/ThunderWeek. And then we have 3 more programs tomorrow. So the last one will be our global community potluck, hosted by our global student ambassadors from 2 to 3. Again, go to cls.highline.edu/ThunderWeek to see the full schedule for tomorrow. And we also want you to follow us on Instagram and Facebook, both CLS and CCIE, to keep up to date on our programs and learn more about us and our student leaders, some of whom are at this program today. But if email is more your style, you're not too much on the social media, we ask you to subscribe to our bi-weekly email newsletter, and there is the bit.ly link there as well, so we can keep you in the loop about all things happening in the center. So thank you again for coming. We hope to see you at our Coffee With event tomorrow morning, but that was all we had for you folks.